Hi, Aven.
Hi, Kirsty. Happy Lunar New Year.
Happy Lunar New Year. It is the year of the fire horse. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling good about it. 恭喜发财 is a common Chinese wish that we say during Lunar New Year, and it means congratulations, hope you get rich. And so, 恭喜发财 to you, Kirsty, and to everyone listening.
Can't wait to get rich in 2026. Well, welcome to the February episode of We Interrupt This Broadcast. We are coming to you with all of your screen industry news, opportunities, and opinions from around Australia. And we've both just got back from the ACTA Awards and Festival on the Gold Coast. How did you find it?
Fabulous. Despite the fact that it was unbearably hot, I still to this day don't understand why the ACTA Awards are right in the middle of a Queensland summer. But I found that there were a lot of important conversations. I loved the Creator Economy Summit, for example. And we also met for the first time in person and made our public debut as a team.
Yeah, I loved hanging out with the podcast team. So we had Robbie and Loani up there as well and got to not only run our own panel, but hang out and collect people's big ideas. We actually now have a website set up where you can go and read all of the ideas that we collected throughout the festival and even submit your own.
And Kirsty, you were presenting an award.
Yeah, that was super fun. I was asked by ACTA to present Best Costume and Best Production Design at the Industry Awards Day. So I got to present alongside Jeffrey Walker. And it was just so fun to see how everything works behind the scenes, from the rehearsal process to all of the crew and the timings and getting the right note cards and awards to the right spot.
And who are the winners and losers of the ACTA Awards?
Yeah, it was quite the spread, but there were some big winners. Bring Her Back was the big winner on the film side of things. 10 awards, including Best Film and Best Director for the Philippou brothers. Lesbian Space Princess won Best Indie Film, and I'm the Most Racist Person I Know won Best Short. And I just wanted to shout that out because that's a trifecta of South Australian productions. So we're very proud down here in SA to have basically swept the film category.
And in the TV category, we had The Narrow Road to the Deep North winning 9 awards, but not Best Miniseries. That was taken by Apple Cider Vinegar. And The Newsreader won Best Drama Series for the 3rd time, meaning every season of The Newsreader has won in that category. That is astounding.
Yeah, a very popular show, that one. Such a great watch. There were some bigger awards as well. Bruce Beresford was the Longford Lyle Award winner. So that's looking back across his career worth of work. And he did mention that he never wanted to win that award because he doesn't want people to think his career's over. But as a director, he's just had such a phenomenal impact on Australian feature filmmaking and really paved a path for us in the US as well, which I think is incredible.
And what about Sarah Snook?
Yeah, another SA girl. She won the Trailblazer Award, and that was presented by Brian Cox, her TV dad on Succession. And they had a really fun interview with her the next day, and in conversation that was hosted by Shane Jacobson, who actually has played her dad on screen twice on the feature film side. So lots of laughs, a really laid back vibe, and just a really fun conversation to watch.
Sam Jennings and Christina Satan won the Byron Kennedy Award.
Yeah, Sam is one of our past podcast guests, and we've got a really great episode with her about how they support creators to bring their feature films to life. And this award recognises their body of work at Causeway Films. So very well deserved. Big applause when they won that one as well. And we should also mention that Best Student Short, which is a new category this year, was won by Set Menu, an AFTRS film written and directed by Lindsay McDonald. So it's great to see that support coming through for new filmmakers as well. I want to go back to the Creator Economy Summit because I went to that one as well, and I just felt it was such a refreshing strand of programming.
The lines going into the Creator Economy Summit were crazy. That event was organized by Changer Studios and Screen Queensland. And normally I have a bit of hesitation with these digital first events because the panelists or the presenters tend to be a bit surface level about their work. But this time around, I found that the speakers really dove so in depth about their revenue models. We saw a lot of graphs showing their year-on-year income, where the money was coming from, what tactics they used to grow their business, how they were understanding audience.
Yeah, they were super generous. Like, it was Australia's biggest YouTube channel. It was people who are merging screen and business. And I found it really interesting that the content itself isn't necessarily what is bringing in the revenue for them. So having them literally put their business plans up on the screen and share them with industry, I found it amazing. You don't get that level of transparency anywhere else.
And I suppose it is the way of the future or even the way of the now. I found out that the creator economy is estimated to reach $205 billion in this year alone and will grow to over 480 billion by 2027 and beyond. I mean, what does that say about the potential? You don't hear those numbers very much, do you?
No, especially on our side of the industry where you're seeing TV and feature film budgets diminishing or people talking about needing to tighten their belts. There is opportunity where eyeballs are, and eyeballs are obviously in that space. So I guess to sum up the ACTA Awards, things are definitely shifting. The conversations were all about where the industry's headed, what the opportunities are, the fact that a lot of what we're currently doing is unsustainable. It was interesting the types of ideas that were coming through our Big Ideas activation.
Yeah, during our panel, we were letting people from the crowd just throw out ideas. And I found that the through line of most of them had to do with where are audiences consuming their content and how can we speak to them where they are, and also about the well being of people and practitioners in our industry.
Yeah, they were definitely the two main themes. And, there were some really fun ideas that came up as well. So we had a bit of a debate about two potential financing models that we could throw out there. One that came up was Shark Tank for the screen industry, where we have a TV show that people can literally pitch their ideas to investors. And the other one was from Rachel in the NT, and it was the idea of a chook raffle where we throw $1.5 million a year into a barrel and whoever's idea gets picked gets to take the money and run with it, which just so much fun. I loved that idea.
It was funny because you were telling us during our brunch that you wanted to see if chookraffle.com.au domain was still available.
Don't give away my secrets, Aven. I'm going to have to register that now before the podcast comes out.
Yeah. Overall, I think the industry had a lot of mixed feelings about this ACTA festival. There's a greater sense of sobriety, I feel. The industry is going through a serious contraction at the moment, and I almost feel like this year is the make it or break it kind of year. It's a real turning point where people feel like innovation really has to happen. The current way of doing things is no longer working. And there's a lot of expectations on not just producers, but also on vendors to do more with less. And it's just not sustainable. So people are really asking and talking about where are the opportunities for innovation. And I feel as though I heard on the ground that people didn't want to just hear polite questions and polite answers anymore from the traditional gatekeepers. Call it disillusionment, call it sobriety, but I think there are definitely a lot of strong mixed feelings this year.
Yeah, we're definitely in a time of change. And as much as I'd love to take some of that New Year spirit and hope that we're all going to get rich this year, I think there's a lot of hard conversations to be having and a lot of experimentation to do before that happens.
Maybe the biggest bombshell news that we heard this month is that Matchbox Pictures is closing after 18 years. I cannot believe that, Kirsty.
I know Universal Studios International, who are their parent company, have announced that they will close Matchbox, both their Sydney and Melbourne offices. So that means 30 staff are now out of work. And I just feel so sorry for all of the incredible people that work at Matchbox.
And I know you worked for them for a while too.
Yeah, I was really lucky to run their Adelaide development office for a couple of years, and they were just such an amazing company. A lot of incredible people took me under their wing, and so I'm very grateful to have been a small slice of the Matchbox history.
And it's not just Matchbox either, it's also Tony Ayres Productions, a separate company under the Universal International Studios umbrella. So what have we been hearing from the industry on the ground?
I think a lot of people are really worried seeing this announcement. I think there was a sense that Matchbox was one of the more stable companies in our local landscape. And there's that fear there of, oh, if this could happen to Matchbox, then what about the rest of us? We did a little poll on our Instagram stories, and 80% said that, yes, they think there will be more closures in the coming months. So that doesn't pose a positive sign, I guess.
And so what about the staff now? Can Matchbox go independent?
Yeah, someone did ask the question whether Matchbox could just go independent again as a company. And from a legal perspective, that's probably not something that's easy and simple as it sounds, because they were acquired. That legal entity is owned by NBCU as the parent company. The company doesn't just revert back to the founders. So if they were going to go back to being an independent company, they'd either need to negotiate to buy the company back, or they'd need to start something from scratch.
It's quite daunting when you put it that way. Hey, you build something for 18 years and you don't even own a piece of it anymore. And now it's gone and you have to start from zero all over again.
Even all of the projects that they potentially had in development.
And I know that Claire Pollen from the Australian Writers Guild said that closure of Matchbox is a sad reminder that our industry cannot rely on the whims of international studios to keep us afloat.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to some of the criticism that there has been over the years about Screen Australia investment into some of these big foreign-owned production companies. Ultimately, they're headquartered offshore, and the ownership of the content and IP feeds into their pockets rather than to our local production companies. Simon Nash wrote on LinkedIn this week that he thinks a much smarter option would have been to insist that those media giants like NBCU co-produced with genuinely Australian-owned companies, which would have seen us retain the majority of the IP and the output, as well as helping build local companies on an international scale. But I think that investment has also helped a lot of local companies to scale to the level where they can compete globally. So there's pros and cons.
And so, what does this mean? Does Universal still want to make content in Australia?
Moving forward, they'll be evaluating production opportunities on a case-by-case basis. So I guess as new projects emerge, they're not just going to one company anymore. There's potential for them to engage with other producers and production companies across Australia, which is potentially a positive. And on the flip side, depending on what happens with Matchbox staff and where they go, they also can be looking outside of having to pitch all of their projects through that channel. So that may open up more scope for them as well. At the end of the day, Matchbox is going to leave a huge legacy in our industry. It's a company that so many of us coming through have looked up to, been mentored by, learnt from, and they've created so many opportunities for people to come through behind them. So keep an eye out in the industry for those great Matchbox people, and let's see where they go next.
This episode of We Interrupt This Broadcast is sponsored by AFTRS, the Australian Film, Television and Radio School. For more than 50 years, AFTRS has been working with our industry, always delivering incredible education and training to our Australian storytellers. So if you're looking for a full-time course or a short course, if you want to be on campus or online, anywhere in Australia, AFTRS has a course that's going to suit you.
Let's get to local industry news, and we'll start with Screen Producers Australia. They have submitted 2 applications to the ACCC seeking authorisation to bring producers together and engage in collective bargaining to negotiate with broadcasters and streaming services. This is really interesting.
Yeah, what they're looking to do is create a baseline set of negotiated rights for the key terms on each project. This actually echoes something that happened in the grocery industry, where big supermarket chains have a lot of buying power, which can make it hard for small suppliers to negotiate fair terms. So they collectively bargain to establish a code of practice through the ACCC. Now, Screen Producers Australia is doing something similar. Producers are asking for approval to negotiate collectively with the bigger players, the free-to-air television broadcasters, and the streaming platforms, essentially asking for a fairer arena to do business in.
Yeah, because most of us as production companies are small or medium-sized businesses, we don't have those legal or admin resources to be able to fight potentially imbalanced terms with the big players. And so because under commercial competition law, we are essentially competitors to each other, it could be seen as anti-competitive if we all band together and negotiate rights at the same time. So that's the reason for this application, and the ACCC will be assessing it. Just to note, you will still be able to adapt terms for the circumstances of your particular projects, but it means that fundamental terms will be standard across the board and make things easier on producers when they're going through that legal process. On the streaming quotas front, as of January 1st, that regulation framework is now officially in place, meaning that any platform with more than 1 million subscribers now needs to commission local content here in Australia.
I spoke to a number of people who attended the Meet the Streamers panel at the AACTA Festival. They were a little bit on the fence about what the representatives said, because some of them pretty much said, oh, we're already investing a significant amount into Australian content and we are on track to meet those quotas.
Yeah, which is good news, but we do know from the projections that there will be more expenditure going into Australian content. So I think on the whole, that's a positive start, and we'll see where it leads. If you remember, that legislation also secured an extra $50 million to the ABC over the next 3 years. And it was interesting, during Senate estimates a couple of weeks ago, the ABC Managing Director, Hugh Marks, was asked about his plans for those funds. The focus seems to be to deliver more Australian stories to Australians. And he said that there's no shortage of material or stories to tell. So that extra money also enables us to operate at a level that I think means we can compete more effectively with the quality of productions that are being delivered by some of those international streamers. So I found that really interesting. Are we going to see more shows coming out of this, or are we just going to see higher budgets on the number of shows that they're already planning to commission?
We'll just have to wait and see.
What I did find positive, though, is that Hugh Marks said that the ABC has a couple of really good kids shows ready to go. So that's great news for the children's sector.
And Kirsty, I saw that Screen Australia has just launched their new market and audience programs.
Yeah, so Screen Australia has launched 3 new programs, and they're designed to bridge that gap between content and audience, which I think is really exciting. The first one is the assets strand, so up to $45,000 that you can apply for to create marketing assets for your projects, either during production or pre-release. So things like trailers, other assets that go out to audience and promote your show. There's an audience testing strand, which gives up to $15,000 for testing during post-production or pre-release. So being able to put your project in front of an audience, get that feedback and make tweaks. And there's also a channel management strand. So that one is up to $15,000 for direct-to-audience creators, and that's designed to drive platform visibility and audience impact. So overall, 3 really exciting programs that I think will have an impact and really encourage producers to be thinking about that marketing stage from the get-go.
I think the channel management one is especially interesting for direct-to-audience creators, because I don't think people understand that when you're a creator, you are everything. You are the camera operator, you are the caterer, you are the talent, the script writer, the producer, the everything. So having that real key channel management support being funded is going to make a huge impact for our local creators.
Absolutely.
So this first round is only for projects that have previously received Screen Australia narrative content or First Nations narrative production funding, and applications are due March 26th.
And one final note on the policy front, the minimum licence fees for TV production funding have increased as of the 20th of February. So we'll link to those in the show notes in case you haven't seen the new licence fees yet.
What's happening on the AI front, Kirsty?
Have you seen the 15-second video of Brad Pitt fighting Tom Cruise?
No, I haven't seen that.
So it's pretty impressive technically. It's a 15-second video and it was generated with a 2-line prompt on Dance. So this is from ByteDance, the company behind TikTok. And the Motion Picture Association and a whole bunch of other industry stakeholders have immediately jumped on it for its copyright infringement, with Charles Rivkin, who is the CEO of the MPA, going so far as to say, in a single day, the Chinese AI service Dance 2.0 has engaged in unauthorized use of US copyrighted works on a massive scale. ByteDance is disregarding well-established copyright law that protects the rights of creators and underpins millions of American jobs, which is totally fair. You cannot just take someone's personality and fame and existing work and turn it into an AI piece of entertainment.
Especially Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt.
But it's interesting because you say that about Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, and yet it's happening on a daily basis from small and medium creators, and people don't seem to turn an eye to it. So I find that really interesting, the discrepancy, because where is the line? Is the line when big businesses start to do it? Is the line when it looks like there's potential for profit? But if anyone on an individual level can do it just for fun, then it kind of opens the water gates and normalizes it so that people feel that it's okay. So we're in a really interesting era. And I also saw, Aven, that Darren Aronofsky has been playing around with AI.
Yeah, my goodness. He started this company, Primordial Soup, which makes AI films, and its latest release, On This Day, 1776, is a series of short videos depicting America's Revolutionary War. The voices are performed by human actors, but the visuals are created with AI, and it looks terrible. The Guardian even put it this way: it is a genuinely horrible watch, and everybody involved should be ashamed. Strong words.
Yeah, it's pretty funny when a, traditional reviewer comes out and is just slamming AI content.
Authenticity is today's currency.
Yeah, absolutely.
South by Southwest Sydney will not be returning this year.
Yeah, this one was a surprise to me. It was meant to go for another 2 years across 2026 and 2027, but the New South Wales government has now decided to discontinue their funding. I think there have been some challenges getting it off the ground in Sydney. I was lucky enough to go to South by Southwest over in Texas, and over there it's just so contained within a radius of several blocks of the city. Everything's really walkable and easy to access, and I think the distance in Sydney was quite challenging. So yeah, sad to see that big event go. But filling that gap, we have Tropfest, and by the time this episode is released, it will have just happened this coming Sunday.
And just a quick shout out to Taisha McFarland, whose short film Blue Orchids was a wild card for Tropfest, but has now officially made it into the program as a finalist.
That's really exciting. And they actually ran quite an extensive campaign to do that, didn't they?
Yeah, they had to get as many people as they can to engage with the video that was uploaded onto Tropfest's YouTube channel. And so that meant the number of comments, the number of likes, the watch time, all of these factors actually determined who would make it into the Tropfest program as a finalist.
I love that. They have the judge selected projects, but also the next wave.
A number of major news publications in Malaysia picked up the story about Blue Orchids being a wild card. And so there were people from not only in Australia, but also in Malaysia and in the Malaysian diaspora commenting on that video, saying that this is an important part of Malaysia's history, although it is harrowing and sorrowful. But we love that there is content being made about this today so that future generations can see it. So no wonder why it became a finalist.
Yeah, and that's really exciting to show that Tropfest can have that audience impact outside of that really narrow niche of the type of content that may traditionally be selected by the judges. I also think watching the Super Bowl halftime show and Bad Bunny earlier this month, so many people not realizing that there is an entire audience base for music outside of the English-speaking world. And some people, seeing Bad Bunny for the first time as part of that performance. We often forget what exists outside of our own little bubbles.
The NFL even put it this way, that they literally cannot grow the NFL anymore unless they start to reach out to the Latinx community.
Mm. A few quick industry opportunities for anyone who is interested. Screen Forever registrations are open, and their pitching competition has also been announced, which is offering $10,000 for development costs, as well as legal services valued at $3,000 and curated meetings at the Spa Connect market. So if you have a project you want to pitch, get that in. ABC Careers is looking for a commissioning associate for their future screen developer program, and this is specifically aimed at diverse applicants. So well worth applying if you want to, like we were just talking about, expand the diversity of content that we see on our screens and the range of perspectives through which opportunities are judged. And on the regional front, AACTA Pitch Regional Landscapes is now open and looking for original feature film concepts. So that closes on March the 5th, and you'll get funding and mentorship to develop your script. What have you been watching recently, Aven?
I'm about to watch Iron Lung in the cinema. That's the indie self-finance horror film from YouTube megastar Markiplier or Mark Fishbach. It stormed the Australian-New Zealand box office following its release late last month through Rialto Distribution. And I cannot believe how well it's performing, Kirsty. It dethroned Marty Supreme from the top spot in only its second week and Stand Help, which opened the same week into third.
Yeah, I've been following this one. It's so interesting. So it was originally an indie horror game, and then Mark did a video about it on his YouTube channel, which gained viral popularity, and he's since adapted it into a feature film. So it's self-financed, reportedly a budget of around $3 million. And it was originally planned as a fairly limited release in the US, but due to demand from the audience he has built on YouTube and the number of people writing to cinemas to ask them to show the film, it expanded to 3,000 theatres across the country.
That's extraordinary, Kirsty. And in Australia and New Zealand, it was 290 screens. That is astounding. That just shows how important it is to have your audience down pat.
Yeah, and it's something that I don't think would have been on traditional distributor exhibitor radars. I even saw a Reddit thread online saying, if you want to see this here in Australia, send this email to your cinema. And hundreds of people were jumping on board going, I've sent an email, I've emailed my local cinema. And it just shows that effect that it can have when your release is driven by demand.
I totally agree, Kirsty. It just demonstrates how a creator with a really deeply engaged global following can translate online clout into box office success. Because remember, this was a $3 million budget film, and it has made easily over $40 million in the box office. That's like more than tenfold profit.
Yeah, and that includes 1.8 million in Australia alone. So you look at our recent local box office numbers, and that is huge. On the festival front, there's been some Australian selections and news as well. At Sundance in January, Leviticus sold its global rights to Neon. Very exciting. Apparently they were snapped up within 24 hours and many offers on the table. So congratulations to the Causeway team and Adrian. At Berlinale, we had Wolfram from Warwick Thornton and Saccharin from Natalie Erica James. And coming up at South by Southwest, there's 3 Australian films in the program. The Fox, Dario Russo, Leviticus, so Adrian Chiarella's film moving from Sundance to South by, and Dead Eyes from Richard E. Williams. What's in production, Aven?
Ruby, the latest horror from legendary producer Tony Jannane, is shooting in South Australia. In Victoria, production is underway on Curia Pictures' new season of Leah Purcell's binge mystery thriller High Country. Runner star Alan Richardson is returning to Queensland to begin filming a new Amazon MGM Studios feature about the decorated Navy SEAL Mike Thornton. It's being directed by Australia's Patrick Hughes, and from what I've heard, they're actually shooting at Stradbroke Island. In New South Wales, the Australian-Scottish co-production for Stan, Careless, is in production, as well as Greyhound 2, starring Tom Hanks and Stephen Graham. And in Western Australia, the Netflix surf series, Breakers, is in production.
Lots going on at the moment, and good to see that mix of Australian and international production happening at the same time. Well, that is it for February, and that actually brings us to 1 year of We Interrupt This broadcast, because our February AACTA Festival episode last year was our very first episode of the show.
That's such an amazing achievement, Kirsty. You should be so proud of yourself.
It's been really wonderful, and I loved seeing people at AACTA Festival come up to us, people that I have never heard of or met, and going, "Oh, I listened to this podcast. Oh, this really helped me." And it shows that it is making an impact in the industry. So thank you to everyone who has been listening across the last year. And this month is our final episode sponsored by AFTRS. So I just wanted to do a massive shout out to them for their support of the podcast over recent months and also for supporting our Big Ideas pop-up at the ACTA Festival. They also have applications open for their Master of Arts in Screen Business until the 2nd of June. This is their postgrad course on screen business and creative leadership. And if you're interested in that, I'd recommend going back to last week's episode with Fiona Kelly. She did the MASB a couple of years ago and really spoke about her experiences with that course and the impact it had on her.
And make sure you keep liking and following and commenting because that also helps the show get discovered.
Coming up in March, we have the Australian International Documentary Conference, so we'll be wrapping that up in our next Roundup episode. And in the meantime, there's some fantastic deep dive interviews coming up with our new hosts, Aven, Robbie and Lawani, so keep an ear out for those.
Now, back to your regular programming.
We Interrupt This broadcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the
Gadigal people of the Eora Nation,
The Turrbal and Yuggera people,
the Yugambeh language people, and the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains, and we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians and first storytellers of these regions.
Always was, always will be.